Can you see it, Dr. Foster?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, great. All right, good afternoon, everyone, on this rainy Kentucky February day. This is the Kentucky Monthly Climate Perspective on Drought and Hydrologic Conditions. I am Megan Schargorodski with the Kentucky Climate Center and will serve as your moderator today. We are only going to have one presenter today, and that is Dr. Stuart Foster, who is the Kentucky State Climatologist and the Director of the Kentucky Climate Center. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to him.
All right, thank you, Megan, and welcome everyone for this month's webinar. It's certainly a good thing that we have the term hydrologic conditions in there besides drought, or else we probably wouldn't be talking today. So anyway, happy to have everybody with us, and a lot going on here around the state. Okay. So our webinar series, again, sponsored or supported by the National Integrated Drought Information System and in coordination with the Midwest Drought Early Warning System. And we have many partners there. We've got their logos on the front page and others that have contributed. We appreciate that greatly. Our next webinar will be on Thursday, March 5th. And I believe that's still on standard time. We'll be recording this webinar and making it available for viewing at a later time. Outline for this month, again, we'll stick with the format that we've used up to this point in terms of taking a look at recent conditions in terms of temperature, precipitation, soil moisture, stream flow, drought conditions, and then look at what sort of impacts, concerns there are out there across the state at the present time before getting into outlooks from the next few days ahead to a monthly outlook to a seasonal outlook, and then kind of pull all that together and have an opportunity at the end, if you do have any questions, would like to talk about any issues or concerns here going forward. Picked a couple photographs from our Mesonet cameras here on the left that kind of capture the weather pattern we've seen over the last few weeks. In the upper image there, basically just a cloudy, dreary kind of wet day with a low cloud cover. We haven't seen a lot of sunshine recently, with the exception of this past weekend for a couple days there. And then it's been wet for the most part over the state, and certainly over the last few days. We had some issues with our GIS scripting to generate our monthly, our 30, 60, and 90-day precip map. So I think that bug probably came from some new stations we're trying to incorporate that we've recently added to the Mesonet, and so we'll get that worked out for next month. So as a result, we had to fall back on some internally generated maps. They're not real well coordinated in terms of color scheme, but nonetheless, they help us to tell the story in terms of precipitation across the state for the last 30 days. And this was basically a 30-day period ending last night at midnight. You can see the heaviest amounts. We've got a large portion running west to east, where we've had 5 to 6 inches or more of precipitation over the last 30 days. But when you get to the northern extent of the state and farther east, we've got some areas that were less than 3 inches, so running just a little bit below normal, but not very much so. So for the most part, it's been kind of normal to wetter than average over the last 30 days. And again, that's been changing quite a bit just over the last 2 or 3 days. Our 60-day precipitation totals, again, we see very heavy amounts over a portion of south and central Kentucky. You can look across there and see some totals that are 14, 15 inches in some cases. And then otherwise amounts in the range of 8, 9, 10, 11 inches, pretty common over a large portion of the state. The lowest amounts being, again, in the northern tier of counties where we're 7 inches or more, which again, for a period of December, January, a few days of February is certainly kind of a reasonable amount of precipitation. And again, we'll see that here in a moment when we look at the radar estimates of percent normal. 90-day precipitation totals, again, we see the same basic pattern. We've got that core area, southern central part of the state. We're now over 90 days. We've got several stations that have recorded over 20 inches of rain, 21, 22. So essentially about 7 inches a month, if you will, over that period. And again, the lowest totals in the northern part of the state, they're still over 10 inches during a time of the year when we have very little evaporation and no real transpiration of moisture out of the environment. So again, plentiful rain over the state. Looking at the 30, 60, 90 days as a percent of normal, the yellow, or excuse me, the light blue color is the most prominent there across Kentucky for those three maps, and that is 150 to 200% of normal. And then the greens take us down to anywhere between 110 to 150% of normal, depending on the shade of green. So again, with the exception of a very limited area in the northern part of the state, when you get up there to Bracken, Mason, Lewis counties over in that direction, we've got some areas that are right around normal, but otherwise we've been above, and in many cases significantly above normal precipitation over that period. And another thing that's rather remarkable there is the consistency of the pattern. If you look at the three maps there for Kentucky, the pattern is very, very similar in each case. So there's not really been any major change in the storm track and pattern of precipitation over the region. One thing that might stand out just a little bit is in the 30-day map. You can see as you go up to Indiana and Illinois, that's an area that has been extremely wet, 200, 300, 400% of normal precipitation in that area. And again, think back to last year. We're coming off a year where we had extensive flooding in the Midwest, and so we're seeing a pattern that's in some ways quite similar to last year. Temperature departures. It's been an extremely warm winter so far. Here we're looking at the last 30 days. On the left, the departure of temperatures from the average, for the average maximum temperature, and on the right, the departures from the average minimum temperature for the date. So highs and lows, in both cases, we're anywhere from about 5 to 7 degrees above normal on the high temperatures, and looking at the low temperatures, even a bit warmer in some cases, up to about 8 or 9 degrees above normal in terms of the lows. And that's a continuation of a pattern that we saw in December. So December and January were very, very similar, running around 6 degrees above normal so far for the winter season. And that's certainly something that's noteworthy here. Looking at modeled soil moisture and groundwater, again, you're seeing exactly what you would expect. It's been wet. We're at very high percentiles in terms of calculated soil moisture and in terms of shallow groundwater indicators. Again, well up to 80, 90 percentile of wetness based on historical data. Last month, we took out the soil moisture plots, just again, really because of the time of year that it's not a major concern. But I put a couple of them back in this week, or this month, excuse me, and extended the time range to go back a full year. So just to kind of highlight that, again, you can see the dryness that developed every year as you get into summer and get more heating, you're going to see some decline in soil moisture. But we had the flash drought late in the summer into the early fall. But as you can see, a couple sites in the upper left, that's in Crittenden County over in western Kentucky up along the Ohio River. And in the lower right, that's in Clinton County, down central part of the state, but right there on the Tennessee border. And in both cases, you can see that soil moisture levels at different depths have recovered and are basically running at a maximum in essence in terms of what we've seen over the past year. And again, go back to the beginning of last year, and we were also in a very, very wet pattern at that time. Plenty of water out there in the environment. 7-day average stream flows for Kentucky. You've got a few gauges there that are in the bright blue, indicating that those areas are running at 90 percentile or higher based on historical data. So quite high stream flows, and the lighter blue colors, areas that are above normal, and then lots of greens that are right around normal. And again, as you go to the northeast, we were closer to normal precipitation. While we've gotten quite wet, again, a good bit of the rainfall that we've seen in the last 30 days has come just over the last couple days. So probably isn't fully captured yet here in this 7-day stream flow average. Looking at the 28-day average, also see the above normal stream flows, particularly in the western half of the state, the Green River Basin, and getting over to the Kentucky or Tennessee River, the Cumberland, Tradewater areas in the western half of the state, above normal stream flows. Eastern half and northern bluegrass area, pretty much normal over the last 28 days. Current flooding conditions, though, we again reflecting something of the recent rainfalls, we do have some minor flooding in the Green River Basin. There, Butler County, Ohio, and Muhlenberg counties, and then down in southeastern Kentucky, there, Harlan, Bell County, and such. One gauge there at moderate flooding at present. So again, I don't think that's too surprising given the rainfall totals that we've seen. So with all of that, precip, soil moisture, groundwater, all of that, stream flows, U.S. Drought Monitor, again, it's a pretty boring map this month, and that's generally the way we like it. No drought anywhere here in the region around Kentucky. You have to go all the way down to the Gulf Coast to see any hint of it whatsoever. And even as you get down into Texas and out into the Four Corners area and the far Pacific Northwest, drought, what drought there is moderate, very little severe drought. So it's just very, very rare to see a map that is this clean across the entire country. Looking at change in drought status over the last month, again, you can see in the green shaded colors area where there has been some improvement, in the yellow shaded areas where there has been some degradation, some drought developing. No significant changes one way or another over that last month period. And again, we're in the winter season, so it's difficult for drought to develop and intensify quickly this time of year. Now moving on to impacts, we had an extremely busy month in terms of storm reports, and we actually, this map was based on storm reports that were submitted through yesterday. This is basically a day old and does not include a number of reports that came in overnight in just the last few hours. Again, we had a very heavy rainfall in southeastern Kentucky overnight and into today. So we're not fully capturing things here with this map and summary. But looking here, we see basically 3 periods during the last 30 days. We had a minor snow event on the 7th of January, reported totals up to about 3 inches in eastern Kentucky. On the 11th and 12th of January, We had some very strong storms that produced multiple tornadoes. And you can see symbols there in western Kentucky from Graves and Marshall County, Trigg County, Christian County, and up to Caldwell County. F0, F1 tornado damage, some straight line wind damage there, and also over in central Kentucky in the Bluegrass area in some of the counties there. For example, Madison County, Fayette County, so forth. Again, a fair amount of property damage from some of that, but again, those are fairly weak tornadoes, but very widespread high winds across the state. So numerous reports. I think there were over 200 storm reports submitted last month. And then again on the 18th, we had another day with very strong winds up in the range 40 to 50 miles an hour for the most part. Led to some reports, but no real significant damage from those. So again, there are so many reports that impossible to capture everything in a summary that we have here. In terms of the ag sector, talked with my friend Matt Dixon there at the UK Ag Weather Center, and he passed along some information from the latest weekly crop report. And highlighted really continuation of things from last month. That hay inventories continue to be a concern. Concern about pasture conditions. All in all, the pasture conditions you can see at the bottom table there, 60% good, 9% excellent. So in comparison to where we are last year, I think our cattle farmers are feeling a little bit better about their situation again this year compared to last. And again, hay continues to be somewhat short in supply, but nonetheless we're 52% adequate, 5% surplus, and the warm weather conditions and such have been a positive. So we have again on the right, we've benefited from very few sunny days. Had a lot of cloudy weather and such, but we haven't had the real cold conditions and damp conditions that persisted last year that caused so many problems for folks. Now looking ahead, 7-day quantitative precipitation forecast shows a large portion of the eastern part of the country that's expecting very significant rainfall amounts over the next 7 days. And if you hone in there on Kentucky, we've got estimated amounts from somewhere, but say between 1.5 inches up to about 3 inches of precipitation, 7-day period. And we'll see how that plays out. But again, what you see there is a pattern that has been in place for some time, that we've had some ridging in the eastern half of the U.S. with warmer conditions, and trough in the western half of the U.S. with cooler conditions. And we've had just a steady stream of moisture coming up out of the Gulf, and that precipitation just seemingly one storm after another through our area, and that's been quite persistent. So 6 to 10 day outlooks for temperature. We have a 60 to 70% likelihood of being warmer than normal over that period. In terms of precipitation, we have about a 60% chance of being above normal in terms of precipitation. So again, warm, moist air advecting out of the Gulf, and that moisture being deposited over Kentucky and surrounding states. If we look out a little bit farther, 8 to 14 days, again, a continuation of that warm pattern, but maybe starting to see a little bit of a shift of the cooler air moving eastward, perhaps, but the high pressure to the south and east has been particularly stubborn, and we haven't had much cold air at all this winter. Again, as we think back to the temperatures that have been averaging about 6 degrees above normal. On the right side, again, you can see an area, Tennessee and Kentucky, that's really a bullseye with a a high probability of being above normal in terms of precipitation going out 8 to 14 days. Monthly outlook, so you basically take what's left of February after we get through the 6 to 10, 8 to 14 day outlooks with that 7-day QPF in there. And, we're likely to be, again, above normal temperature wise when we look back at the end of the month, and precipitation, an enhanced likelihood that we're going to end up wetter than normal. And again, we're off to an extremely good start toward that. These outlooks were updated out on January 31st. So we've already got some of the evidence already coming in. Looking farther out on a seasonal perspective, no strong signal temperature-wise for Kentucky. Likely be warmer to our south and east, maybe colder to our north and west. But again, we're in a bullseye area, a rather weak bullseye, but roughly 40% likelihood of being above normal precipitation. And again, that means about a third probability of being near normal, and around a quarter, close to 25% likelihood of being below normal precipitation. So given the pattern we've been in, persistence is usually a pretty good forecast till we see evidence that something's changing the weather pattern. So pretty much when you look at all those signals, they're pointing at wet. Monthly stream flow outlook from our friends at the Ohio River Forecast Center. Look across the region that they cover in the Ohio River Basin. Again, it doesn't get the western tip of the state there in the Jackson Purchase, which is part of the lower Mississippi. But all of the areas throughout Kentucky and elsewhere in the Ohio River Basin projected to be above normal in terms of stream flows going ahead for the month of February. Seasonal flood outlook. Again, we were already seeing some flooding around the state, more precipitation on the way. We've got a few red dots there indicating that for the period, this is February, March, and April, so a 3-month seasonal outlook. Those red gauges are indicating a greater than 50% likelihood that we will have some moderate flooding over that seasonal time span. And so again, you see that in the Green River Basin. You see a little bit of it there in the Kentucky River Basin. And then some areas there in orange, which are more numerous, that have a minor or more than 50% chance of minor flooding on a long range perspective. So something certainly we need to be keeping aware of. We're very wet out there right now. We've seen some of these storm systems come through and drop a couple inches of rain to 3 inches of rain over a 1 or 2 day period. It's not something we have forecast, but we can certainly look back historically and see that it's possible that we could have an event come in with 4 or 5 inches of rain over that period. So we're certainly in a position where we're quite vulnerable to the possibility of flooding developing on a larger scale here. I think this captures that. So summarizing all of that, again, precipitation has remained persistently above normal, as reflected by the 30, 60, 90-day totals. Again, just small areas that are the exception to that. Short-term outlook indicates a strong likelihood of warm and wet conditions. Again, some of those probabilities were about as high as you see in outlooks, and that results in an increased likelihood of flooding. Monthly and seasonal outlooks bring an enhanced likelihood of above normal temperature or precipitation when we go out to those longer time scales. And then I kind of pull this together with the last item there, that through the first 2 months of winter, and from a meteorological perspective or a climatological perspective, winter is the months of December, January, and February. So we've got 2 of those in the books, and statewide, December and January ran about 5.9 to 6 degrees above normal. So given the outlook for February, it's quite likely that the winter of 2019 and 2020 will finish among the 5 warmest winters that we've experienced going back to 1895, 96. So we'll just have to stay tuned and see how the rest of the month plays out, whether it does go according to the outlooks or not. And we'll be able to come back next month and report on the kind of final results for the winter. So with that, Megan, I'll send it back to you and give folks an opportunity to ask questions, discuss any topics that they might be interested in. And so take it away, Megan. Megan, are you muted by chance?
Yep, I was totally muted. All right, so now that I'm unmuted, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys just a few minutes to unmute yourself and respond. If you don't know how to unmute yourself, like apparently I didn't, I'm more than happy to unmute for you if you type in the chat box that you need to be unmuted. So with that, I'll just give a minute or so for any questions. All right, it looks like I have one comment from Steve Coleman just saying that with the forecast, it looks like a muddy farming season ahead. And I think we can definitely agree with that. Steve, did you want to say anything else?
I just, again, was very interested in the information, and without any cold temperatures coming, the ground freezing, it looks like we're going to tear up a lot of pastures with cattle on the pasture land, and again, feeding a lot of hay. So just, again, something to look forward to, a lot of conservation work in the near future, Dr. Foster.
Yes, and unfortunately, I think our farmers are familiar with this routine.
So far, it seems to be a pattern that we keep following in the last couple of 3 winters anyway.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. It's always very informative.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything? All right, with that, thank you for attending today. Our next regularly scheduled webinar is on March 5th, the first Thursday of March at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central. And if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to contact Dr. Foster at stuart.foster@wku.edu or a phone call at 270-745-5983. And thank you for your participation, and have a great day.